Still got another person joining. All right. Hi, Juana. Thanks for joining us. Oh, God, right when I want to start, more people join. Okay. So what we're going to do is, it's going to be a little bit out of order. Normally what would happen is Gary Fowler, my partner and CEO of GSD, who would open and speak. And then I would speak, and then we would do have one of our companies speak. But in the category of time is important, especially when you're running a startup, and I only asked him 15 minutes ago, I'm going to have Alex, the CEO of Xcoop, open up and just talk a little bit about GSD Labs and his experience. And then if you guys want to ask him a question or two, you can. And then following Alex, then Gary will talk, and then I will speak, so Alex could leave right away. But Alex is a top entrepreneur from Buenos Aires, Argentina. He went through cohort 2, and he's been very successful in terms of raising money and getting partnerships. And I'm not saying we take full credit, but I'll let him discuss about how GSD Labs has helped him. And also introduce your company, Alex, so they have some context.
Okay, cool. First of all, guys, I had nothing prepared for this. Honestly, they called me 10 minutes ago and said, hey, I need you to join. But I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to tell you my experience with these guys, which has been honestly an awesome ride. To tell you a little bit about ourselves, we formed our company about 2 years ago with a very aggressive goal, which was becoming the first or the largest, the first and the largest payment company in Latin America, basing our road out of the money transfer business. Okay, what we basically are doing is we are creating a payment ecosystem from A to C that starts with all the folks that actually depend on money transfers in the region, which is pretty much a very large business that moves over $120 billion. We kind of actually are trying to replicate global experiences from very successful companies such as TransferWise in Europe, Exum in the US, but at the same time, other ecosystems like PayPal, like I always forget about the Asian company, Derek.
It doesn't matter. TransferWise would be another one.
Okay, cool. Anyway, as Derek mentioned, we started this pretty much out of zero, out of the blue. We know that actually, if we wanted to become big, we needed to be able to grow by getting great partnerships around the world. In reality, and also raising money. Okay, we knew that actually to be able to raise serious money, we needed to have a partner that actually has the experience of doing that, and that's where GSD comes in. We got in touch with them. Honestly, at the beginning, I was kind of actually, not really fond of partnering with an accelerator or type of company or a lab. But these guys proved me wrong. On one hand, they were able to set us up with more than 100 VCs around the world, with whom actually we've been able to interact and actually pitch and present our product, and with some of them, have really good results. And on the other hand, not only they did that, but they really did take hands-on on partnering with us and actually, driving the business. One of the things that we did try with other labs, okay, that they were only concerned about probably raising money so they can get their cut. With these guys, from the day one, okay, they really took the time to understand our business, which is really complex, okay, with the advantage that particularly Derek comes from the payment business. He has quite a lot of experience on the payment business industry, and that really helped us because on one hand, not only he was able to set us up with awesome partnerships. We recently closed a partnership with an African company, which is a unicorn there that kind of actually does the same that we do, so we can start grow globally. Also with a huge bank in the U.S., which provides banking infrastructure for TransferWise. So we are now having the same financial infrastructure in the U.S. and licensing infrastructure in the U.S. like TransferWise does, but also the possibility of even growing through mergers and joint ventures with other large companies. So and we've been working for a little over a year there right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, even though usually you would think that with these guys you would have one meeting a week, I can tell you that with Derek we speak like 10 times a day. And it's awesome. I have learned tons from Derek and Gary. I've had these guys never sleep, no matter where they are. They've been always supportive, and it's like at any time, for example, I don't know, are you in Russia right now, Derek?
Yeah.
Okay, last night we were speaking with Derek at actually 10 p.m. my time, which was probably around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning for Derek, and we were chatting. So I don't know. That's my experience, guys. I am so
So let
happy.
me kind of connect a couple dots before I let you go, Alex, just to help them.
Yeah.
So number one, and I'll describe the program shortly, but again, we're a little out of order. It's a 10-week virtual program that we're talking about. One of the unique things about our program is the main goals are to help you get product and fundraising traction. But there's a unique thing that I think is unique to our accelerator, which is after the 10 weeks are up, we have a mechanism where we could continue to work with you. And that's what Alex is really describing. The second thing is we got Alex in front of hundreds of investors. He was able to close some, not all, which is great. We also were able to leverage our connections with gateways and banks and also customers. I appreciate Alex highlighting that we have experience in payments, but what's kind of awesome, you kind of have to be self-serving here, is we have experience in payments, in AI, in VR, in AR, in cybersecurity. I mean, if you just Google Gary Fowler and see the amount of knowledge that he has, it's tremendous. And so what I think is important, though, is we use not only our connections and our knowledge, but we also use digital marketing and marketing hacks. So I always call it the power of twos. And so that's what we were able to do with Xcoop. So yeah. Before I let Alex go, does anyone have any questions? Would you do the program again, Alex?
100%. 100%. I mean, that's why we're continuing. At this point of time, I don't know if it's fair to say, Derek, that you guys are my partners. So, it's like, not only that, I mean, I have them on the board, just so you know. Derek is our chairman Gary is our chairman of the board, and Derek is our global COO right now. And you know, I honestly, even though as Derek said, we are entrepreneurs because we don't like to have bosses. I'd like to have Derek and Gary as my boss.
I don't know about that. I'm a little bit of a crazy
Yeah, I
boss.
do.
All
Yeah,
right. All right,
you're awesome,
Alex.
buddy.
Well, thank you very much for dropping in. And you could hang
Thank
out,
you.
but I also want to be respectful of your time. So I'm assuming you'll just drop. So it's up to you.
Yeah, I actually have a whole marketing team waiting for me, but I really appreciate
Nadia, did you have a
you inviting
question?
me.
You're so formal. I appreciate the hand.
Yes, I have a question. Sorry to Alex.
No, you're
Um,
good.
Please,
um,
Nadia, whichever
I mean,
questions.
since they're so helpful, did it overwhelm you at any point that they were like asking for too much from you? How did you manage that?
I would lie to you if I say no. You know, honestly, yes, they did overwhelm me, but in a good sense. Um, and maybe let me clarify this. In reality, you know, we know or we think that we know everything about our company, and we are the only ones that know how to present and how to sell our companies, particularly to VCs. Honestly, those first 10 weeks were tremendous in terms of hard work because we needed to change everything that we have built to present ourselves and to pitch to VCs. Okay, and I'm glad that we did that because honestly, we were pissing out of the jar. Sorry for my French, Nadia.
You're
Yes, we had to
Spanish.
work. Yeah, yeah, we had to work a lot. Yes, these guys are a pain in the neck in terms of asking you for documents and actually building, you know, a new pitch. But you know what that tells me is that they really care and they really took the time to change us for good. And let me give you an example on the opposite. We also closed a deal with an accelerator in Europe, okay, out of the Netherlands. Um, you know, we had to pursue them, okay, and call them 100 times for them to set up one meeting, okay, with a VC. Um, and they didn't even care whether our pitch deck was good, was right. And you know, when we had the meeting with the VC, they didn't even show up for the meeting, right? And when we had to follow up with the VC, we didn't know which documents we had to present. Our data room was shitty, and they didn't even care. Well, you know, these guys didn't let me do that. They helped us build all that, and honestly, at this point of time, I could say I don't know if we are the best company for VCs, but we definitely have all the information that VCs request, and that is thanks to these guys. I don't know if I answered your question, Nadia.
So one of the things, just to kind of follow up on that, is the 10-week virtual accelerator has 2 meetings a week. One is in the morning and one is in the evening, and it's meant to be flexible. You just have to attend one. And then, as Alex says, everything else is done either opportunistically, constantly throughout the day on WhatsApp or Telegram or over Zoom. So it's definitely, it's a lot of work, as you guys know, everything is in tech, in startups. But there's only 2 meetings and you only have to attend one, and it's meant to be flexible. So I would say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, it's a lot of work, but it's not a lot of babysitting and hand holding. We don't believe in that model. We're all adults. You know how to run your business. We just want to give you some additional tools to help you pop the Silicon Valley bubble, have access to customers, have access to capital, so you could define a new category, dominate it, and monopolize it. Like, that's all we're trying to help you do. So, all right. So thanks so much, Alex. And then now I'm going to turn it over to Gary Fowler. Many of you have spoken to him. Some of you have not. But I'm going to let him give a quick introduction, and then I'll dive into some details about the program itself. So thank you guys so much.
I'm going to jump off. Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
Alex.
Alex.
Thanks very much, Alex.
Bye, Gary.
Goodbye, bye. So it's great to see some familiar faces here. And, you know, at 21 years old, I started my first company. People said I had nobody to teach me how to do it. My father said, be very careful, Gary. You went to graduate school. Why in the world would you want to do this? Be a professor. And the thing is, I had a dream. The dream was that if you really visualize and believe that you can accomplish something, you can. So that particular company, I made $9 million over 2.5 years. It was funny, after that happened, people came to me and said, everything you touch turns to gold. So I went from, you can't do it, to it can be done. And I'll tell you, I've done 17 companies. I've had 2 unicorns, $2 billion companies. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which we brought from Haifa, Israel, to the US, to Campbell, California. People said it couldn't be done. This was at the beginning when there weren't a lot of Israeli companies. Changed the name of the company from IAT to Click Software, came up with a family of products, did an IPO on NASDAQ, sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion less than 4 years ago. So it means that each one of us can have a dream. Again, Eva.ai, I founded it with billionaire Dr. David Yang. He's Russian, brought it from Russia over, bought the IP, turned it into a $1 billion AI HR tech company. So, and yesterday, if you get a chance, listen to my podcast I did yesterday. I had the founder of a company called Five9 that was sold to Zoom last week for $14.7 billion. And I've known him for years, by the way. And working from his apartment to the point that he sells a company. Now he's a billionaire as of yesterday. It means that everybody has an opportunity to do it. The difference between success and failure is believing that you can do it. Are there pivots? 100%. You know, so of my companies, I've done a weather forecasting company. I started one of the first e-commerce consulting companies, et cetera. But one of the things I learned is it's really important to have those contacts. And I know I've talked to Hashi about it, Sanjay, many of you, right? You need to have those contacts. It's a very small network of the top folks, the highest net worth individuals, the top technologists around the world. It's a group, whether they're in Germany, whether they're in Singapore or Sri Lanka, whether they're in Africa, but it's a group. And when you're into that group and you've had success, it breeds success. So my particular background is artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and quantum computing. I've written 160 articles over the last 14 months in those areas, in Forbes, et cetera. In fact, my next one is tokenization and customer loyalty. Will be out next week. So if I can do it, each one of you can do it, but you need to look yourself in the mirror. Do I really want to do it? Or do I want to be a lifestyle business? You're the only one that can answer that question. Sometimes people say yes, but there's a reason why many startups fail. And by the way, I started a top accelerator in Russia. I've had over 4,000 companies through my accelerator. Work with Guy Kawasaki, Bill Reichert, Steve Blank, Bob Dorff, Eric Ries, et cetera. But you have that opportunity. And I've talked to 90% of you on the call, at least 90% of your call. So you wouldn't be here if we didn't feel that you're able to also share in that dream. What we can do is we're using the knowledge. I've been doing this for 37 years. You can imagine who you know around the world. I went to university in Russia myself. People said it couldn't be done. I was 48 years old and I went back to school. You know, my ex-wife and I, we got divorced, and I thought, if you wanted to do something, what's the most challenging thing? Live in a student dorm and go back to school for 5 years and retweak your life. And then I became an MIT Skolkovo professor. So, and built companies. So I built 3 more companies during that time. You can do the same thing. So it doesn't matter where you are. You know, as Derek says, intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities aren't. We use Silicon Valley as a port to the rest of the world. Why? Because the valuations are higher, and you know, people have an open mind, and there's an opportunity for partnership. Doesn't matter what company they have. Many of the companies have innovation offices there. It's a great place to partner. So, you know, that's it. What I believe that this is the greatest time. Here we are in Zoom. By the way, 6 years ago, when Eric, the original investor in Zoom, asked me to try Zoom and said, this guy's really smart, I started to work with him. You know, here we are 6 years later, he's worth $20 billion and has changed all our lives, right? You can do the same thing. Yesterday, listen to my podcast yesterday. He was in his apartment in San Francisco when I met him, and now he's got $20 billion or $15 billion, 14.7. You can do it, but you got to take that step forward. You got to visualize where you want to go, guys. Seriously, and ladies, you got to focus on it. And if you do it, I did a TED talk called Passion, Optimism, and Visualization. Those three key soft skills are really important when you're building a startup. And it's tough, right? You got to pivot. You don't fail. It's about pivoting. You know, yesterday he said, sometimes you got to pivot 100 times. And I said, 100 times for $14.7 billion. Let's do it. So that's it. You know, I wish you a lot of luck. You know, we want you to succeed. We are unicorn builders, and we're looking for companies that can do the same thing. And to the ladies, we've been very supportive of female entrepreneurs, and we believe that, you know, a diverse place is critically important. You know, my grandmother is African American. She's actually Egyptian, Greek Egyptian. Grew up in Egypt. Grandfather's Greek. On the other side, the German and English. So we got a mixed bag. But the one thing we understand is that by having this diverse environment, intergenerational teams, that we can do it. So anyhow, great to have you here, ladies. Winifred, Juana, Nadia, you know, great to have you here, and happy to answer any questions.
You know, what's funny, just 2 weeks ago, we had the first company get acquired that went through our accelerator. It was called Setka. It is called Setka, and they were acquired, and they have a CEO founder who is a woman, and so, not saying that every woman that comes through our accelerator will get acquired, but it is definitely interesting that that was the case. So we're really excited about that. So let me kind of tell you a little bit more about my history and the history of this accelerator, and then I will walk you through what we do exactly during the accelerator, or at least as close as I can. So I have worked in technology companies, both B2B and B2C startups, mostly in New York and California. I have been a part of $0 failures to $2 billion exits and pretty much everything in between. I do like to clarify that I'm not intelligent, so that means I'm just hardworking. So I'm not an engineer. I don't do ones and zeros. I'm not a doctor, if there's any doctors on this call. But I've done a lot in product and growth and operations and leadership roles in those companies. I really enjoy the process of simplifying user experiences and simplifying messaging. Part of the way I've realized the mission of simplifying messaging is I started, built, and sold a storytelling marketing firm where I built online and offline communities and ecosystems for medium-sized and large brands. That company was called Cult Following. And we had a metaphor to a religious cult, which was a process that we still use at GSD today, which is recruit, indoctrinate, and spread. Basically using communities to help build your companies. We don't do it with all of them, but we do it with a lot. both B2B and B2C. The third thing I've done is I helped start an accelerator in the United States called Bunker Labs. Bunker Labs is specifically designed to indoctrinate US military veterans into technology, kind of taking a page from the Tel Aviv playbook. I seeded 350 companies while I was there in that accelerator that went on to raise $99 million in venture capital. So I've done all these things. Gary has been doing things in the Valley since the Sun Microsoft and the HP days, and done a bunch of things in artificial intelligence. And he told you about a lot of what he worked on. And when we came together, Gary had mentioned that we should start a venture studio. And I said to Gary, I don't want to do it. And the reason I didn't want to do it is because I did some research and I found an article that literally said, here's the top 300 venture studios throughout the world. And I just never thought it would be a good idea to be 301. And what Gary explained was, Derek, we can do it. We just have to start small and think big. And the way we started is we had a niche. And that niche with our venture studio was we would partner with Eastern European engineers and technical talent and work with these guys and build AI companies from the United States. And that's what we did. We weren't an accelerator. We were just a venture studio. We found technical teams. We built companies. We got capital injected into them. We worked with AI companies that have between a $4 million run rate and 100 million sales. We were very successful with it. Now, as Gary said, we had this thesis because we didn't do it for Eastern Europe. We just started there because we had contacts in Eastern Europe and the US, and we had this thesis about intellectual capacity being evenly spread throughout the world, but opportunity was not. And so we expanded our footprint, both physically and digitally, to all around the world, focusing on companies that are not inside Silicon Valley, that don't necessarily have the access, but have great ideas. And if we could take Silicon Valley to them or pop the Silicon Valley bubble, you can have access to the capital you need. And so even if we do work with companies in our accelerator that are from the United States, they're not the white males from Silicon Valley. They are the people that do not always have access, that are not from the Valley, that have different skin colors or are women, because we do really believe that being bold and resilient and having grit are traits. And oftentimes you find those in people that didn't grow up in the comforts of Silicon Valley, California. Now, what we're talking about today is GSD Labs, which sprang out of GSD Venture Studios. The reason why I went through this history of myself and GSD Venture Studios first is all accelerators have roots. They all came from somewhere. And our roots came from venture buildings. Y Combinator's roots came from venture capital. There's nothing wrong with theirs. And you know, they're obviously a great program, but it is different because we came from venture building versus venture capital. So we built GSD Labs, which is a cross-border accelerator. It is a 10-week virtual program that starts the last week of August. It will accept 10 companies in the cohort. The goal of the accelerator is, as I said, to help you get traction in terms of product and fundraising, with the extra caveat that we are venture builders. And if we want to do something like we did with Xcoop and stick around through our venture studio, there is something there, but there's no obligation for that or requirement. And the 10-week program is broken down into 3 categories or 3 phases. The first phase is the get set stage. Now, during that stage, Gary and myself and our colleague Nick will help you get your material set. I think that's what Alex was alluding to, helping you make sure your pitch deck and your sales deck is set. The other thing that we do, which I think is more exciting and relevant, is we do something called Mentor Madness. And Mentor Madness is rapid fire speed dating with mentors in product, in fundraising, in sales to give you that advice. If you've looked up Techstars program, they do the same thing. I used to do some work with Techstars, so we took that from them. It's incredible. Everybody loves it. And it's fast paced, a lot of mentoring, a lot of different advice that will really help you get not only your story straight and help you get support, but there's a famous saying that we say in the United States: if you ask for money, sometimes you get it for advice. If you ask for advice, sometimes you get money. So we have had a lot of great stories spring out of Mentor Madness. People have gotten term sheets from investors they've met in that way. People have gotten customers. There's lots of good things that have happened from there. But that's just stage one. Also in stage one, we give you $2,500 in free legal services from Pillsbury Law. So we can help you get, if you need legal services, you have it. We also have access to free data scientists. That's through a data scientist boot camp. And so you can use those data scientists if you have an AI project, or if you need them for marketing personas or cohorts, we could load you up there. And then we also have other softwares that I think most accelerators have, if you've looked into them, that are free and discounts and things like that. But the second phase is the get shit done phase. So I don't know if we told you, GSD stands for get shit done. And that second phase is about working alongside you like a venture builder, helping you get traction in terms of product and fundraising. And so Gary really heads up the contact side and uses his contacts and our contacts to help you get in front of people. And then I help with the marketing side. And as Alex alluded to, he was in cohort 2. I can't remember exactly. He said 100, but in cohort 2, I think we had over 700 meetings with the 10 companies that were facilitated through the program. So if he had 100, that means someone had a little bit less, which is possible. But last cohort, we had even more. We had 900 meetings between the 10 companies. So it is a lot of meetings. You will get in front of venture capitalists. The last cohort, we had 4 companies get funded. Before that, we also had 4. And then our first one was cohort 1. We had 3. But we also had 2 companies go on to another accelerator. And then in cohort 1, Setka, which is the company I just mentioned, just got acquired. So we're obviously excited about that. Obviously, we don't take full credit for a company getting acquired, but it's beautiful to see that that's been part of their journey following us. And they graduated less than a year. So, you know, I do think it's fair that we take some credit for that. Less than a year ago, they graduated, I should say. But, and then phase 3, I actually spend the least amount of time talking about. There's always a lot of emphasis put on it. It's the get funded stage. It's the demo day. The reason why I put less feedback on it, I mean, last demo day, we had over 100 VCs register and come to the demo day. But it's really the cherry on top. All those conversations should really have taken place prior to demo day. And yeah, that's a great forcing mechanism and it helps. And, you know, we videotape it and make a really good production out of it for you and the investors. But the bulk of the work is done during the GSD phase of getting stuff done. And so that's the program. As Alex alluded to, I live on airplanes. Right now, I happen to be in Moscow checking on some of our portfolio companies. I'm usually in California, Nick's in New York. But chances are, if you message us, we're available 24 hours a day. And I don't really say that lightly, but it is a very intense time, but we really are there in it. Again, because we're entrepreneurs too. Like, we don't know any other way. I don't know how VCs don't respond to email. That's like not in my DNA. I wouldn't even know. That's like not even a thing. Or chat, responding instantly. Like, that's not even in my, like, it's so foreign to me. It's impossible to understand where if someone sent me a chat, why they don't get a response within minutes or seconds. And so that's kind of a little bit about us, a little more further logistics. As I said, starting the last week of August, 2 meetings a week, one's in the morning, one's in the evening. Don't ask me what time it is because you're all over the world, but we'll space it out and you can select one. You don't have to commit to that one. So sometimes you'll come mornings, sometimes you'll come evenings. About 50% of the companies in the cohorts come to both, which is great, but you don't have to. And the program itself is, so we don't take any equity. There's no equity component to the program. We just take a flat fee of $7,500 US, and that's it. And then if you're interested, what I will do following this meeting, I will send everyone an email. I will send you some FAQs. I will send you a PowerPoint. I don't know what else. Maybe there's another link or two I might grab. And then you just need to let me know if you're interested. If you want to have another one-on-one call, that's awesome. And we're more than willing to do that. If you think many of you have already spoken to us one-on-one. If you want to just move forward, just tell me and I'll send you a contract. And then you sign that, and then we'll walk you through next steps. I mean, it's pretty easy from there. But that's pretty much it. I see the hand again. I love it.
Very formal here. Now, I just wanted to know what are the criteria for you to accept the companies into the cohort? I guess because if you have more than 10, you kind of have to choose on something.
Yeah, no, I mean, very good point. The criteria is, number one, you need to be English speaking, because unfortunately or fortunately, it's in English. The second question is, the second thing that we look for is we're agnostic to stage. So we've had companies from the PowerPoint stage to $15 million in revenue and everything in between. But we are looking for companies that we do feel have the potential to be a unicorn and that have demonstrated the grit and the resilience. Everyone on this call has demonstrated that they have a good product. But I think what we really are looking for is that grit and the resilience. So I don't know if that answered your question, but we're looking for bold, resilient entrepreneurs. We're agnostic to stage. We're looking for entrepreneurs that do have the ability to build a unicorn. And a lot of times, you know, that comes from personality as well, and really want to do it and want to move fast and break things. So
The other thing is we want to look for companies where we can add value, you know, where they're interesting and compelling story. And as Derek said, companies that have unicorn potential, you know, and a lot of people talk about, well, I want to build a unicorn, but they've never done it. And the situation is the world, as I've told each and every one of you, is really dynamic with all the data around us. And so many of the companies here are taking advantage, whether it's artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, algorithmic math, et cetera. So it's really the step. And, you know, from, as we've said, you know, out of the a core head of the 10 companies, there'll be 2 or 3 companies that will be eligible at some point to be portfolio companies. You know, like I said, Setka got acquired, right? So they'll have a different kind of exit. But from our standpoint too, it's not just about the accelerator, it's about what the future potential is for the company and how we can have a deeper relationship. We get to know you for 10 weeks, right? We work with you, get to know you, what kind of team you have, which is team is number one. Does the team really have the right stuff to be able to take it to those levels? Go ahead, Juan.
Hi, Gary. Hi, Derek. Just wanted to make sure, I've seen that your focus or the GSD Venture Labs is focused on trying to take the company and enter to the US. I just wanted to make sure if our expansion plan is focused for the Latin American region, does that have something to do? Or can it be
I can answer that
like,
question. So, Juan, we use Silicon Valley as a port to the rest of the world, right? It doesn't mean that you have to have your headquarters. My company, Eva, is a Russian company, but I have an office at a co-working space in Santa Clara, California. So the idea is not to just come into the U.S. market; it's how to go global, right? We're agnostic, and so we work with, as you just heard, with Xcoop, that with Alex, that, I mean, they're an Argentinian company. It's not that. It's about how do you position yourself for global expansion. Now, if you said, one, you just want to stay in some country in Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, or Chile, that's a whole different deal. I mean, we want companies that can be unicorns, and unicorns need to look at.
Yeah, I understand completely. But I was talking that, or let's say our expansion plan is focused for the Latin American region first. So I just wanted to make sure if it has something to do with entering directly to the US, or if we can develop this region first.
No, develop the region first.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I think we're American, so, you know, we obviously have global experience, and we understand that. And we're going to have a very Silicon Valley American point of view. But you're asking a very important question. You don't have to do business in California or New Mexico or New York. But what you can do is you can attract investors from Silicon Valley. We could use our partnerships with blue chip companies that transcend to South America and help there. And quite frankly, from Xcoop, I mean, Xcoop, for example, how did we help them? So they're a peer-to-peer payment company, meaning they send money from Argentina to 8 other countries in Latin America. Well, Gary knew someone at Uber, so now Uber is paying their drivers through Xcoop. Same thing with the UN. Gary, if you go online, spoke at the UN, so he had contacts at the UN. Xcoop is now using payments, or the UN is using Xcoop to make payments there. So none of that has to do with the UN making payments in California. They're making payments in South America, same thing with Uber. But we're able to use our connections, use our story to then get the attention of Tribe Capital, who's in Miami, that is Latin American focused, to inject capital into them so they can dominate. And then, yes, they'll eventually expand globally, but they're really focusing on those 8 countries now. Like, does that?
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
So that's kind of how we see it. So look, we are American, and there's, that's who we are. Just like if I came to you for help, you're from Mexico, your first thought would be how you could help there. But the good thing is Silicon Valley really isn't America. It obviously it is, but it is just this port where everyone has conjugated for a variety of reasons, and having access to that plus good marketing and good storytelling is how you can raise a lot of money and get some partnerships to transcend your business. So that's
Perfect. Thanks.
Gary, Derek, it's Sanjay. How you doing?
Hi, Sanjay. How are you?
Yeah, good. That was very interesting to hear the background, and thank you for doing that. So it's now clear the 10-week is to get to know each other, refine the story, strategy, things like that. Let's go one step further. If we go to continue the relationship, what happens then in a typical portfolio company scenario?
Yeah, that's
Sanjay, you missed the part. We're also introducing to investors. We're already doing introductions to investors. They're coming in for the pitch day. And these are friendly investors, ones that we've known for many years. And some could, SoftBank, Vinod Khoshla's group, Khosla Ventures. You name it, like top family offices. So it's not just about preparing. It's about, actually doing starting the process, getting the process moving. I
just realized that I have a speech after. Who did I just let in just now? Who just came in?
I don't know, but I just got the notice you and I are speaking in, where is it? Sri Lanka or?
No, India.
India. Okay.
Anyways. No, to answer your question, look, the way we work is let me just tell you what we don't do. We don't want to be consultants. We don't want to be advisors. We don't want to be your scouts. We don't want to be your mentor. This is following the labs. We want to have operational C-suite roles inside of the company, like Alex alluded to, where we take roles operationally, but also this is where, for someone like Juan, where we're recasting the company. We're not going to make it an American company. We're going to make it a global one with American executives inside of our office. And then you'll have Derek and Gary and GSD as part of the team. The other thing that we would do to further help recast is find advisors from the US that add credibility. Okay, so if you're in security, add the former chief security officer of Apple, add guys from venture capital to create, again, not about America, but about being global. And then, but the other thing is we're American and we love stories, but we want to do more than that. And so we will help operate and sales, marketing, business development, greater fundraising, and we will be on the team. But there will not be a GSD team and your team. We are on your team. So when your team sync meeting is we're in that meeting, and vice versa. So under that model, we figure out a performance-based equity package that's win-win. And I have no idea what that is now. I'm just speaking generally. And then we figure out, what are the actual expenses we need of the team that we're going to oversee in the US. Like this is meant for companies that want to go from 5 to 1,000. Because, Gary's not going to drive up to the 30 companies and sell. Gary will call the CEO of Salesforce and Intel and places like that. But we are going to have to oversee a staff. And that's where, I have no idea what that is. We just, and that's where we figure it out and we put together a win-win plan or we don't. So.
Yeah, I got it.
The key is, Sanjay, it's all win-win, right? Because we're developing relationships. The thing that we believe in is long-term relationships. And a lot of you that are on here come from friends, from VC friends, from different contacts that we have. So
it's all about that. It's developing these long-term relationships, because this won't be the first time we work together.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions? It's kind of poor planning because how is the content first week to last one curriculum? Kursad, could you maybe elaborate on that question? Are you just asking what's the curriculum?
Yeah, I was trying to understand what is the curriculum, the first week agenda, the second week, the last. You don't have to be
no, totally
detailed,
cool.
but just give me a brief idea about the roadmap.
Yeah, sure. So let's just talk about it in the phases, just because the curriculum matches the phase. So during the get set phase, what we are largely focusing on is getting your pitch deck done and getting your sales deck done. But we also have something that you've never seen before. I'm going to use the word proprietary, but we have a unique one-pager that we use at GSD. And so we work together to get that done. And that is what Gary and I use to help you guys get intros. It's one of our secret sauce things that has worked very well for us. So now I get it. Everyone thinks their deck is perfect and they don't need any help. But where the changes really come is you're going to speak to dozens of mentors. It's not just me and Gary red inking your stuff. It's giving you that feedback to help you get that set. I want to be very clear about that first phase. That's like the most kind of instructional. It's like 1 to 3 weeks. So like we're giving you feedback on your deck. We're trying to get you situated, but this is not like a learning course. And that's why, like I talked about working alongside you like venture builders. This is about getting shit done. So as we go into the next phase, the curriculum is really designed around following the ball of, okay, now we got you in front of investors and in front of corporations. Well, what do you do now? I mean, and then, okay, now that you've had 1 meeting and 2 meetings, what do we do now? And so a lot of people will ask me in week 1 about their financials, and we'll kind of give you a little bit of a preview of what you need, but really that's not needed till like week 6, because that's when they become relevant. And so really the curriculum is based around the bouncy ball of getting you set, getting you a meeting, getting you follow-ups, getting deals closed. And so that's what it's all designed around. Does anyone have any other questions? All right, I'll send you guys an email if you want to have a one-on-one chat. We can. If not, just let me know if you want to proceed. I'm happy to do email, and also have WhatsApp in the email as well. So I'm available there if you want to do quick things. Talk to everyone soon.
Yeah, thank you. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Yeah,
Derek.
thank
and
you.
Gary.
All right,
Thanks a lot.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
What's up, Nadia? What's your
Hi,
question?
Derek. Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask, because we've actually just raised our first round, the seed round.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And we are able to go here for like 18 to 24 months. And
Yep.
I was wondering then if that whole program, I think it sounds really interesting, but it's like, I don't know if it's now the right time to do that. Because, we would get so much exposition again to investors where actually we're not raising at the moment, right? I think we'll be back into raising end of next year or beginning of 23.
I mean, it's really the question that I would ask myself is, what does your business do?
So we have a B2B SaaS that detects unconscious stereotypes in language, and
Oh, super interesting.
Yeah.
That's kind of similar to what Gary's business, Eva, is. It's just using it
Yeah, I'm doing a
Or-
sentiment analysis and clusterization, Nadia. So, I mean, the thing is, it's not only about the raising funds, it's about how to position the company.
Yeah, so that is because I think that would be really interesting for us. And also the whole mentoring you were saying about sales and introduction to
Right.
companies.
Yeah.
But the
And what
whole
we do
raising
just-
funds, that wouldn't be a thing to us.
No, and that's great. And to be honest, like I probably overemphasize that because that's usually what entrepreneurs care about. But what we do, just so you know, during the get set stage is we ask you like which one is more important, raising funds or partnerships and sales. And so obviously you would say partnerships and sales. And so we would just focus more on getting you meetings with corporations because that would be your first priority.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I actually absolutely think it would be relevant. It's the same thing with Setka. Like they weren't raising funds. They were trying to get partnerships and trying to get acquired and they did. Same thing with
And
other
this will give
companies
you a
we've
lot of
had.
visibility. Nadia, this will give you a lot of visibility too, because the other thing we didn't talk about is we've got a number of shows, Founders Report, GST Presents, and we highlight the companies, Silicon Valley AI and Tech. We've got the VC Task Force. So we highlight the company. It's part of that, it's a gestalt, right? The sum of the parts equal the whole. It's taking those different pieces and put it together. And we can talk about it in depth because I built Eva, right? Which one of the top AI HR tech companies doing a lot of the same things that you're doing, it sounds like. So we can talk about it.
Okay. All right. And the fact, I mean, we go live with the whole AI driven product by October, December, or October, November, something like that. That's fine as well. I guess it's kind of fake it until you make it, right?
Well, been there, done it. If you look you'll see me talking about AI back in 2016 in July at VentureBeat on stage. I used slides that we didn't even have a product. We made it up. I made it up in 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay. Fine. I mean, it's a good approach for me because that's what we're doing all the time. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
No, it's no problem.
So look, absolutely, we can help you. We'll get you in front of lots of potential partners and customers. We can talk about a plan of building relationships for your next round. We'll be very upfront with VCs. I'll kind of introduce you accordingly, but the priority will be getting you in front of customers. And so if you want to, I don't mean to be rude, but we're like 2 minutes from starting this speech.
No. I want to go.
Where are you today? What country are you in today? Are you in Germany?
Zurich, Switzerland.
Okay, because we have special contacts, AI contacts in Germany and Switzerland that are looking at artificial intelligence, just FYI, in all kinds of different ways. And it's not a bad time to start those relationships that you want to, even though you're not going to raise money for 24 months, it's not bad to start the relationship to let them see how you're progressing.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Oh, cool. I'll let you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right. I got to let these people in.
Okay.
I wish there was a way to clear the chat.
Why don't we come off and come back in? We can't.
You can.
Yeah, but it won't clear the chat.
Hi, Derek. Hi, Gary. Good evening.
Hi,
Hello,
Trisha.
how are you?
We were actually just finishing one talk and started this one.
No worries. Hi, everyone. Good evening. How have you been, Gary, Derek?
Oh, we're
fantastic.
amazing.
How about you?
I'm good. And I'm really sorry about the video. There's a low connectivity issue right now. So I'm facing a little bit of glitch from my end. So I would just be switching on my mic today.
Okay.
So, yeah.
No problem. So do you want to open with first, Trisha, or what?
Yes, I'll just take 2 minutes. So
Yeah, I'll let you know when I think they're still coming in. We could probably wait another
Yes, we
Yeah.
can do that. No worries.
Let me. Hi, everyone. My name's Derek Distenfield. We will be starting momentarily. I always promise people that we'll start a few minutes late, but end on time, because time is important and we appreciate you spending it with us. And it's a little awkward. I was telling Trisha that we were having one talk that started late, but so you'll see some words in the chat, but feel free to ask questions. Introduce yourselves in the chat. I'm also going to provide my link tree, so you can always, if you have any questions after the chat and you want to get in touch, you can reach out to us there. Sorry, Trisha, did I cut you off? I didn't mean to do that.
No, actually, like I said, that I'm facing a little bit of challenge from my end. So I thought that you were on like mute. So I
Yeah, that's all good.
After that, yeah. So I was just trying to say that we can begin with the session. I think as it's 7:35, people can keep joining in. If you want, then I can help you with people joining in between the session. Let's not delay much on the timings, as the students have already finished their internships or classes, I believe, and they're already exhausted. So let's just, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm ready when you are.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, let's do this. Okay, so good evening, everyone in India, and good morning, everyone. Okay, so Derek and Gary, it's a very great moment right now for all of us, because we are really looking forward to take insights from you and Gary on how to, the tips and tricks, the hacks, like you say, that we should remember to start a business. If we are having such entrepreneurial abilities and caliber, then why not just take few insight from the experts on board right now. And yes, good evening once again, everyone. And like he said, that Derek and Gary are today with us from GSD Venture Studios, and they would be the best ones to introduce themselves. So let's not delay, and over to you, Derek. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Yes, over to you, Derek.
Okay, sorry. Hi, everyone. Once again, my name is Derek Distenfield, and I'm the co-founder of GSD Venture Studios, and I'll introduce that in a moment. But first, I want to take the opportunity to introduce somebody who is incredibly difficult to introduce. If you have been on Google and checked out the word AI or quantum, Gary's name comes up. If you checked out VR or AR or cybersecurity or blockchain, Gary's name comes up. The guy has been a force in Silicon Valley and around the world for many years. And I'm proud to call him my partner and CEO of GSD Venture Studios. And so I'll turn everything over to Gary. So thank you guys for your time.
How long do we have, Derek?
I would just do, however you want.
Okay. Well, great to be here, everybody. It's great to be in front of you. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies, and I've been involved in 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which is sold to Salesforce about a little less than 4 years ago for $1.35 billion. And also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. I've been doing startups for over 35 years. My companies have been mostly based in Silicon Valley, although I did start a company in the UK and moved it to Silicon Valley. As Derek has said many times, and I say, his intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but really the opportunities aren't. Our job is to help you to be able to go global. Doesn't matter where you're located, where you're there, you're in India, whether in Europe, even Silicon Valley. We believe in the rule of threes, that, part of it is having these intergenerational team. Two is to having that cultural diversity. And then, of course, decentralized teams, especially today in this world. And, it's interesting. Today we're on Zoom. And I remember 6 years ago when I got introduced to Eric, the founder of Zoom, and people were saying, well, you got to try this. And here we are, a few years later, and he's got $20 billion company. Yesterday, if you look, you'll see that I interviewed a guy by the name of John Kim. John sold his company last week for 14.7 billion to Zoom. I remember when he worked in an apartment. So it means each and every one of you have exactly that same opportunity to be able to get stuff done and to be able to make a difference. The difference is being able to have the mentality to really want to do that. The mentality to be able to take your company global. If you look out there, you'll see a TED Talk I did. Passion, optimism, and visualization. Each one of you, Saad, Yashiv, Vignesh, Harish, all of you need to look yourselves in the mirror and say, what do I really want? Do I want to make a global corporation? And when you're making that company, and yesterday with John, John is probably number one since last week of selling his company, but you have to pivot, right? Life is about pivots. Pivots are not failure. Pivots are opportunities to course correct and to make that difference. Our job, is to help companies to be able to create unicorns using our experience, using our network, and using our knowledge to be able to do that. And it's critically important today, especially as the pandemic is skewed up. And yet there's an appetite to invest. There's an appetite for technologies, especially artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, to be able to make that dent in the universe. And I know I talk to companies every single day around the world. Last week, I was speaking at the United Nations. 2 weeks ago, I spoke at the UN on AR and VR. There are so many opportunities out there, but each one of you need to look yourself in the mirror and say, do I want to do it? Do I want to make that dent in the universe? Do I want to make a difference in people's lives? Do I want to make that change to be able to tweak things, whether it's a supply chain, whether it's med tech, whether it's sentiment analysis applied to emails to be able to figure out what's happening to make life better. And also think about this, the amount of data that's around each and every one of you. Each and every one of you have about 300,000 items within your personal cloud. The entire web in 1996 was 257,000 websites. You, Gorev, you, Harish, Saad, Yashvi, Vignesh, Sarab, Rishabh, each one of you have more information in your personal cloud, the entire web. Think about it. Now that number doubles every year. So in 5 years with the Internet of Things, you'll have 10 million items. How many times over the last 2 weeks has somebody said, oh, I've sent you a message. Did you get it? What's the next thing you say? Vibor, Syria. Where did you send it? I sent it to your Gmail account. What's the next thing? When? Why is it? Because we can't find things. And after that, what do you say? Can you resend it? Think of the opportunity to make sense of all this data around us. Each one of us, whether it's med tech, whether it's supply chain, whether it's farming 4.0, industry 4.0, it's about dealing with the data. And some of the brightest, amazing people of the world, come from India and have that capability. I work with one of our portfolio companies is run by a PhD from IIT, a good friend of mine, and also one of my our partner investors, Raghu. So I'm telling you the opportunities out there, but what you need to do is look at this global market. There's 1.3 billion people in Africa alone, but that it's uncharted. So the key is take that step forward, make a decision, each and every one of you, that you truly want to change your life, that you truly want to move forward with your startup. And guess what? It's not for everybody. There are people say, well, geez, I just want to deal in this market in a region or a country like India. I don't need to go anyplace else, and that's okay. But if you dream big, if you dream that you want to do it, you know, we've done it. When I started Click Software with Moshe Ben Besat, I was on the original team. We were a little tiny company of 9 people from Israel, and we brought it over to the US. I was hired by Oak Investment Partners. Company was called IET. I changed the name to Click Software, came up with a family of products. People said it couldn't be done, but we did it. You, each and every one of you, can do the same thing, but you need to take that step and you need to move forward. So thanks, Derek, and appreciate it, everybody.
Awesome, Gary. Let me take a moment and pull up some slides. All right, so thank you again for taking the time to learn from us. Again, my name is Derek Distenfield. I am the co-founder of a company called GSD Venture Studios. And let me tell you about how I became this guy who was born in Santa Barbara, California, who's now sitting in Moscow and speaking to you guys in India. First off, I started working in New York and California. I've worked in, sorry, Trisha, I'm going to leave you in charge of letting people in. Sorry about that.
Yes, Derek.
So I've worked in $0 failure technology companies. I've worked in $2 billion exits, and I've worked in pretty much everything in between. I'm not an engineer or a developer, but I've worked in product, operations, growth, and executive leadership roles inside of companies. I've always get really excited about working on companies that have a lot of intellectual rigor. I really enjoy the process of simplifying the experience for users. And I also enjoy simplifying the messaging. And I've had 3 exits, and one of them was for a storytelling marketing firm where we built online and offline ecosystems for medium-sized and large brands. Another thing that I did was I helped start something called Bunker Labs, which was an accelerator where I seeded 350 companies that raised $99 million in venture capital. And really, I started GSD Venture Studios with Gary as the culmination of my career. And the reason that Gary and I started GSD Venture Studios is, like he said, is we have a thesis that intellectual capacity is evenly spread throughout the world, but opportunity is not. And if you could define, dominate, and monopolize a category with Silicon Valley cash, that is how you could build a legacy company. That is how you could build something that your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren will see. And when we originally started GSD Venture Studios together, Gary and I partnered with engineers from Eastern Europe. And we focused just in the Eastern European geographical region, building artificial intelligence companies in California, not as consultants or scouts, but as operational co-founders. And we built a portfolio from $4 million run rate to $100 million in sales. But we did that focusing on Eastern Europe. I mean, we were successful, but we were really interested in the whole world. And so we expanded both our physical and our digital footprint all around the world, including India to Australia to South America and 20 other countries in between. And we also have an accelerator where we've had dozens of companies from dozens of different countries come through, all focusing around cross-border expertise. And so between Bunker Labs, where I've seeded 350 companies, between the own companies I joined before then, to the several organizations I've crossed paths with internationally from GSD, I have really seen a lot. And I really wanted to take the opportunity to tell you what I've seen and give you some tips. Some of them might be useful, some of them might not be, but my goal would be to help you get a couple gold nuggets. And please keep putting your questions in chat because we'll answer them at the end. The first thing is that I want to talk about, and what I've seen in terms of leadership, is being a good leader ultimately comes down to being good at communication. And nobody can have a global company without good communication. I think the challenge is that, is that not everyone is an extrovert. It's okay. There are many introverts that could be good leaders. I think the problem is, though, is that nobody quite understands how to lead. And there's a lot of different theories. When I Googled for this talk, I found 58,000 articles around problems with communications. And this is something that we've been studying since the time of Aristotle, yet we still can't figure out how to communicate. And what I would submit is there's not a silver bullet. But the one thing that I would advocate for is you either need to be a good speaker or you need to be a good writer. And I think there's a lot in movies about the rah-rah speeches, and it's almost like, well, if you're introverted and you're not a speech giver like Gary is, well, then you're destined to not be a leader. And I would say that's absolutely false. I would say that if you're not comfortable communicating with people in person, you just have to really hone those writing skills. The other thing that I want to tell you about in terms of leading a global company is there's a paradox or a tale that was written about in the best-selling American book, The Stockdale Paradox. And sorry, the book is called Good to Great. The paradox is called the Stockdale Paradox. And the paradox is named after a famous US Navy admiral. His name was James Stockdale. And he was captured in the Vietnam War. And he was put in one of the worst prisons in Vietnam. And what happened is many of the people died and didn't make it, but he was able to. And when he graduated from that, or when he got back from being a prisoner, he studied why some survived and why some died. And what Admiral Stockdale came up with is that the ones that had the realistic understanding of the situation on the ground, coupled with the unbelievable confidence that they will succeed, are the ones that survived. And the ones that didn't are the ones that died. And so obviously running a global company is not a life or death situation like being in a prisoner of war camp. But I would submit for the survival of your organization, you must have the realistic understanding of the situation on the ground, and you must be confident that you will succeed. You have to have both. So what do I mean by that? It's COVID. Times are hard. Things are shut down. The economy is tanking. But you must maintain your confidence that you can still build a global company, or you can start a global company, or your organization will die. The next lesson that I've learned is that running global companies, you must behave like an ER doctor, not a neurosurgeon. And what I mean by that is, if you go in for neurosurgery, it's a long, long surgery, 8, 10, 12 hours. You're usually under a microscope. The doctor will take his time. Most importantly, he will take several x-rays, so he has all the knowledge that he needs to not make a deadly mistake. But an ER doctor makes decisions with 60% of the information. He or she does not have the time or the luxury to always wait for x-rays or put you under a microscope. That ER doctor has to make decisions quickly. You must have the ability to do that and the confidence to do that. Stay realistic, but have the confidence that you can make 60, 70 decisions in a day, which is much better than making 1 or 2. To build a global company, you need to have an advisory board. And I don't mean who you put on your website. I mean, you need to have a circle of trust. You need to have a group of friends who you can ring on WhatsApp. And many of you guys that just graduated, what I would be thinking about for an advisory board is finding people that are just 6 or 8 months ahead of you. If you want to build a global company now, or join a global company, or just build the characteristics of being a global company leader, then what you need to do is find somebody who is as close to you in graduation as possible, who has actually done it. Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook wouldn't have the faintest idea on how to build a global company today. His advice would either A, not be relevant, or B, it would take so long to get it because he's so busy that it would just not be as effective as if you could find somebody who graduated, got that job that you want, started that company that you want, that did that 9 months ago. And those are the people that you want to have on in your circle of trust. Next thing, as a leader or a CEO, you only really have 3 jobs. One is to set the mission, vision, and values of your organization. 2 is to recruit and maintain talent. And the 3rd is to keep the company alive. Beg, borrow, deal, whatever it takes to keep your company alive. That is the job of the CEO. The job of the CEO is not to micromanage. It is not to play chess and move around all the pieces exactly where he or she wants to go. That is why you recruit and maintain talent to do those things for you. This is a very easy thing to say and to understand, but hard to do in practice. Another thing, if you want to be a global leader, Gary brought up Zoom and how transformational it is. He's absolutely right. But the problem with Zoom is it's too easy to do Zoom, 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 Zoom all day long and not reserve time to communicate, not reserve time to write blogs or memos or things like that. If part of your job is to be a leader, think about the percentage of time that you need to be that leader. And that's the percentage of time that you need to leave open on your calendar. If you don't do that, you're failing. Some of you guys or gals probably have ideas to start a company. Just make sure that those ideas come from falling in love with a problem not a solution that you know how to build because you grew up in that industry or you know somebody from that industry. Make what you can sell, don't build what you can make. Make what you can sell, don't build what you can make. And so what that means is fall in love with the problem or the challenge that you're addressing, not what you necessarily want to build. And if you fall in love with the problem, like I want to solve traffic, well, that could be, there would be a lot of hypotheses that you would test. You could build an Uber for India. You could build a new stoplight. You could build a new way to design roads. You could build a new driver's training class. You could build flying cars. All of those things are hypotheses that you would want to test and make sure that you could sell them before you go out and build them. When you're talking to customers, find out how you can help them, but don't do it with surveys. Get out of the office, talk to them. I realize COVID is a limitation, but you need to speak to the customers. You need to see them using your software, using your product. Ask them if you could come watch them install it and help them install it. So you can watch them do it and see where the pain points are and get into conversations with them. Again, falling in love with the problem, not the solution. So a couple things about entrepreneurship or running global companies is it takes support from your family. And entrepreneurship is a lifestyle. There's several peaks. There's lots of valleys. If you're leading a large global company, it's the same thing. If you don't have the support from your family, from your spouses, from your parents, it's going to be very, very difficult. If you are going to start a company, get an agreement. Maybe that sounds like common sense, but I can't tell you how many times we see co-founders at GSD Venture Studios and GSD Labs without an agreement. The first thing Gary and I did when we started GSD Venture Studios together is we made an agreement amongst ourselves. And if you don't, and it's not so much that you refer back to it. Usually if you're referring back to points in an agreement, something's gone terribly wrong. And thankfully we haven't had that situation occur. But the reason it's helpful is because you have to discuss certain things to write that agreement. And the process of building that agreement makes things very, very clear, because top 1, 2, or 3 reasons that startups fail is because of co-founder disagreement. So it is important to get that ironed out ahead of time. Once you start a company or you start working at a company, all your friends from LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever, from university, are going to come out from all over the place, and they're going to want to partner with you. Do your best to ignore them. Focus on sales, not partners. Especially in the early stage, you hear of very, very, very few companies that have said, oh, because of this partnership, I was able to become the next Google. It just simply doesn't happen. I'll come back to you, Shika, but I see your hand raised. One of the things that comes up a lot when you're running a global company, starting a global company, going global, is you have to work with attorneys. And I always say that bad legal documents don't ruin fundraising rounds, but the wrong attorneys do. Make sure that you're using attorneys that have the expertise in the domain that you're working in, that they've done this many, many times. Don't use like a will attorney for your global company just because he came from a family friend. The other thing is lawyers can be a great source of referrals. There's certain firms and law firms that can really help you. If you're talking about building a global company, I would look at global law firms that have practices globally. To run or start or build a global company, you need to become an expert in your industry. You need to be able to develop a community of some kind. Is that a speaking following, a writing community, a Facebook community? It doesn't really matter what the community is. You just need to get good at it. Now, some of you are saying, well, I don't really know how to build a community. I would say that the same traits that you are going to use to sell your product, you would use to build your community. So practice on building a community before you build your products. One of the things I told you about is I started a marketing firm called Cult Following, and we built online and offline communities for medium-sized and large brands, and I'm hyper passionate about them, building those communities. And the process that we would take people through were recruit, indoctrinate, and spread. Again, it's a metaphor to a religious cult, but recruit is, build a value proposition or build a problem that people want help solving. Indoctrinate, capture them inside of your community, and then focus on a monetization model. And so one of the examples of a company, that went through the recruit, indoctrinate, spread platform is called Hire Club. Hire Club is a pretty vanilla company. They help people, they provide coaches for people looking for jobs and provide coaching to help you build your resume better. But what they did first was they built a Facebook page before they launched a website, before they had anything. The first step they did was build a Facebook page. And on that Facebook page, they helped solve a problem. Again, not falling in love with the solution or even knowing what their solution would be, but they wanted to help the unemployed get jobs, and they wanted to help people looking for employees find them. They knew they had that problem. And so they started solving it on Facebook. And they built a community of over 35,000 people looking for jobs and people offering jobs. And they did it in a very transparent, authentic way, which was super important, and created a lot of raving fans. People loved them. And then once they built the love from those raving fans, they built a two-sided marketplace, a marketplace of connecting people to jobs and connecting job seekers to them, and let the community help dictate them. And what's funny is not only did they become their customers, they also did a crowdfunding investment model where they raised $400,000 US from that Facebook community. Another example of going through the recruit, indoctrinate, spread model is Meme Queen. And Meme Queen is a brand that came up with a value proposition for women in their early 20s. They have a value proposition of giving them comedy through memes. They post memes. And then once a week, Riley, the CEO of Meme Queen, releases a new product. From a sleeping app to blankets to makeup to you name it, they're able to gain authenticity, gain trust, gain a relationship with their following that I call raving fans that are willing to buy their product. And so, that's both an example of how you can recruit, indoctrinate, and spread on both the user, on the consumer and the B2B side. So one of the things I would say is that all around the world, companies from global markets have been formed into unicorns. Here's 5 examples. Some of you are saying, well, that's only 5. Well, here's several more. And I believe that you can be next as long as you believe and lead in uncertain times. GSD Venture Studios, which Gary and I started, also has an accelerator if some of you guys are interested in exploring that. But more importantly, I have been an entrepreneur, a venture builder since I was 7 years old, and I will help anyone that's interested in doing the same, all I can. And so here's my contact information. Like I said, I also put the link tree inside the chat, so you can hit me up on social media and other platforms as well. But let me know how I can help, and I will do all I can or find that person that can if I can't help you. So let me see. I saw some questions. If you guys have questions, you can put them in the chat, or I see people are just introducing themselves. Did someone have their hand raised? I can't remember. Here it is. Shika, you had your hand raised. You want to come off mute and ask it, or you can type it in, either way. All right, she's going to type. No problem. How do you go about researching and converging on a startup? Do MBA research methods work? Okay. So Shika, you can go ahead and ask your question. In the meantime, how do you go about researching and converging on a startup idea? So, okay, so number one is, yeah, I do think MBA methods work, especially for research. They give you a framework to look at companies and see if that gut feeling or if what the market is telling you is true. But I also do, and that's the science behind it. I think the art is, staying close to trends, paying attention to what's going on, thinking about new legal legislation. I think if you think about it, great problems are great opportunities. So what are the problems that you want to solve, or what are the problems that you see? But I think what's most important is not so much researching, but figuring out what you're passionate about. Find that problem that you are going to devote 90 or 100 hours, 120 hours a week, every week for many years. And so I would caution you not just to look at the MBA. I would look at, like, I want to solve this issue and I'm very passionate about it. And then look for opportunities using MBA methods to verify you're in the right direction. The third part I would say is make sure that you're speaking to customers along the way. And that's what I mean, excuse me. That's what I mean by falling in love with the problem and having the flexibility to use whatever solution solves that. Because if you wanted to end slavery, not saying that that's an issue, but there would be lots of ways that you would be open to get that problem solved. And so if you hyper-focused on that and said, I'm so passionate about solving that, you would do whatever it takes to solve that problem. And that's ultimately how you build the best product. Let's see. Great advices. I like to stay connected. Does anyone else? I have two partners in my company. I'm working on entire things from writing resumes to client to support. Though they are supportive enough in taking a decision, but if I'm focusing on picking up a bigger project, they get acceptable at the risk of taking, as we are still in the start phase of our company. How do I handle that? So listen, I think one of the things it sounds like to me is you need to understand exactly where your strengths and weaknesses are and what the strengths and weaknesses are of your partners. And you're not going to really have defined roles at an early stage. But you need to figure out where everyone's strengths and weaknesses are. The other thing that you need to do, and Steve Jobs talked a lot about this, is you need to have a list of goals that you want to achieve, but you also need to have a list of things which you're not going to do, and you're going to say no. And I think that list needs to be jointly decided by your two partners. Famously, what Warren Buffett says to do is write a list of 10 things that you want to do from 1 to 10. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And then you know what Warren Buffett says? He says, circle the top 3, and then the bottom 7 are your no list. So I don't know if you're scattered or not. That's really for you and your partners to figure out. But I think if you have a no list that you jointly come up with, and you have a yes list, and it's also very clear who's adding what value to those top 3 things, I think it might eliminate some of that tension. Anyone who's an app idea, anyone who's not an app developer but have a good. So anyone who's not an app developer but has a good idea, what would I suggest? This is where I would suggest that you look for a co-founder. And I would look for somebody who is that developer, who you could work alongside with, who will help you develop that idea. And it's hard to find one, but also it's going to be hard to sell your new idea. So the same traits that you're going to need to pitch that idea to the public, you got to pitch that idea to a top developer to help you co-found that company. Yeah, please unmute, Shika. Yeah, anyone can unmute. You guys don't have to type.
Hi, this is Shika from India.
Hi, Shika from India. I'm Derek from California.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Okay, so my next question would be, as we are working on resume writing services, the recruitment solutions, and HR and payroll outsourcing, I would talk about my strengths is I'm more good at writing stuff, but I'm not good at the financial thing of a company, and they are handling the financial thing. So I get stuck at a place where if I am, trying to pick up something really big in front of me, they get, more thoughtful about whether we are ready to take that project or not. And I'm really getting crazy about those kind of thoughts from them. I don't want to get affected with that. How do I handle that?
Okay, so say the problem one more time. I got a little lost. So you have an IT HR company, and what's the challenge? Sorry.
My company basically focuses on resume writing and LinkedIn optimization services.
Okay.
Where the entire expertise is with me only, nobody else.
Yeah.
I do it, right? Mm-hmm. And then the recruitment part is again on my shoulders, that I am experienced recruiter for 15 years. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing recruitment solutions for almost 15 years. Again, the experience is with me only. The entire HR process, again, is my experience. The idea is mine. Everything is mine. But the only finance support that I get from there is the financial backup that we've put into the company. Now,
So
if
go
I
ahead.
have to talk about all the financial aspects of the company, it's their call, not mine. But if it's about anything related to business operations, I want to stick on to those calls because I want to pick bigger projects, not the smaller ones. I don't want to stick into only to the resume writing process. I want to go ahead with that. But they are skeptical about talking of only the smaller projects and not taking the risk of a bigger project.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like to me that are they the ones that funded the company, or?
They funded the company. One of the
Yeah.
partners has funded the company. The other partner is into creative designing. So
Yeah.
I am the only one who's getting all the projects. I am the one who's getting the business to the company, whether it's recruitment solutions, HR process, resume writing, or even creative designing.
Okay, so this is part of what I meant by having a founder's agreement, not saying that you could go back in time, but I do think it's instructive for the group that a lot of this to me just sounds like there's tension because you're doing all the work, but they're controlling the money, and there's just this tension, right? And I think some of that might have been able to be resolved if you would do a co-founder's agreement before you started. But I also would argue that you could ask for an agreement now, and you could say, listen, we're starting to grow, we're starting to get very busy. Let's have an agreement that describes exactly how we're going to operate, and let's write it together.
We already have a partnership firm agreement that we've already signed, where we've got a company's name and everything registered.
Yeah, but I mean more like partnership is like a legal agreement. I mean more like an operating agreement. Like, how are you going to operate? Like, have
I would have a discussion. You just need to sit down and talk to them. It's a very simple situation. The problem is people start focuses on this stuff and don't solve it. Get a meeting set up, sit down and talk to them, make sure everybody's on the same page. It's very simple. Do you want it to work or not? If you don't want it to work, right, don't say it, don't be confrontational. You got to sit down and talk it out, see what's happened. Listen, startups change all the time. The very nature of a startup is about change. And so, just talk to them and have a conversation. And maybe it's they need to put more money in because you need to get more resources, right? That's another way to approach it. You just told me they have money, right? They invested. So that could be another way to solve the problem. But listen, the dynamic nature of a startup, it changes all the time, and people do different things all the time. But that's it. But you need to have that conversation. You need to have it now.
Okay, thank you.
It's very simple, right? I know we have a couple of Indian founders of companies, female Indian founders of companies that we're working with today. The same thing. They're not, they tend not to be confrontational, but you got to do that. And in a good way. I don't mean confront, I mean discuss, right? Sit down and say, listen, here's what we got. Let's talk about how we solve the problem. That's it. You got to do that. That's the way you run your business.
Sure, I'll sit and talk to them. Thank you so much.
Okay, so then we have hi, I'm great to have this meet with you. I wanted to ask, how do you validate your answer for the problem? Do we always have to build an MVP to test an idea? Is there a way to fail quickly and iterate? So look, the best way to validate, no matter what anyone tells you, is can you get sales or not? And because that is the true mark of getting sales. Now, the reality is you can't always fake it till you make it that leads to a sale, but you need to get as much evidence that people are going to buy what you're selling. The second thing that I would say is think about what your leap of faith assumptions are. The leap of faith assumptions are, every entrepreneur gets into this where they just know their business is going to be successful. They just feel it into their bones. And so what you want to do is, whatever you think, like, I know people like bananas. Well, think about what are the experiments that you could run to validate those things that have to be true for your business to succeed. And so you can do quick little and do what is the quickest and the easiest experiment you could run to validate that. So for example, I want to sell bananas on the side of the road. Well, the first assumption you are making is that people like bananas and that people want to buy bananas, like, and that they're willing to buy them from the side of the road. So what are the experiments that you could run to test that? And you could at least use that data, because if people don't like bananas, you might like bananas, your mother might like bananas, your sister might like bananas, but nobody else in India might like bananas. So you need to validate that, because it's a leap of faith assumption that you must validate first, and do whatever it takes to see if people like bananas. You can go to a grocery store or go to a store where people buy food, and you can ask them, do they like bananas? And why do they like bananas? What kind of bananas do they like? How often do they buy bananas? There's lots of things that you can do. I would tell you that if you're going to not do sales, it needs to be as much hands-on discussions as you could possibly have, not surveys.
Derek,
yeah.
Thanks for that answer and the analogy. The thing is that, like, as you said, one way is to go through sales. The other way, like you said, you have to ask them whether they have this, like, take this banana or not. So I wanted the way how to do that. Like, you can float a Google form, you can ask your audience there, you can directly approach them, or there are some other ways.
What's your product? It might help me, because I could, rather than talk about bananas, I could.
It's actually a virtual reality platform where you can, visit worlds. So we are still building it, but the point is that we don't know yet that whether it will be, a thing or not.
So,
like,
so it's a virtual reality platform where you're building worlds. Yes, did I hear it right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and you can, like, visit worlds.
And this is where, no, I get it, and I don't mean to cut you off, but this is where my cult following, the recruit, indoctrinate, spread could really help a lot, because the successful building of a virtual reality world requires the successful building of a community. Am I right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
In order for you to build a community, what you need to do is a few things. Number one is you need to make sure that you have the credibility as a founding team, and an attractive credibility where you could recruit people. And then two, you could start building your community right now. And you could do it on Reddit. You could do it on, Discord, or wherever people are. I don't know that well, but whatever those rooms are, or those communities are where VR is, and they're hyper passionate. So I would focus on, in parallel, building your credibility, your founding team's credibility, and then building your community up. So then when you do have the product done, you have raving fans that are ready for it. And there's lots of talk right now. You saw the stuff about Facebook and others where you could, provide information, provide things about the community, drum up excitement, and then indoctrinate them into your platform. The other thing that you could do with the community is you can ask them and make them be involved in the build, and make them feel like they're really part of something at the ground floor, and are going to change the way that humans and technology operate together. And they are going to be part of the builders of this technology, art, and real life synthesis that you're building.
Okay, yeah. Actually, we are doing that on Reddit. Actually, there are lots of subreddits, and the people there are pretty much passionate about that. So thanks for the answer.
Yeah, I would just keep doing that, and I would build that as much as you can, and then indoctrinate that community into your build. There's
Yeah, actually, the thing is that we have to focus more on our MVP because you know when you're going to such passionate places and you're telling them that we have this product, you need to show them off like what you can do with it. Then only they will have that kind of confidence on you. So
I agree, it's not easy, but I also think that if there was a way that you could make them feel like they were involved. Like, for example, like, could you take pictures of you coding? Could you show screenshots? Could you create a subreddit that's based around technical challenges that you're having and open that up to the community? I would do something that creates that involvement and buy-in, because it's exciting what you're doing, but as you know, there's also a lot of people that are trying to do it, right? So I think differentiating yourselves by being real and authentic and getting them involved would be interesting.
okay, yeah, but this is a genuinely nice, answer that you gave me. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Sure. I wanted to start my venture. Could you suggest how I can materialize it? I mean, other than what I said is, depending what it is, I would try to sell what you have to one person. Like, start with one sale. Can I make one sale for this product? And not to your mother or your brother or your sister, but can I sell it to one person? And learn about it. The other thing, which went back to what we said before, that Bob Dorff talks a lot about, is why do you think this is a good idea? That's a hypothesis. You have no data yet. So what are the top 3 reasons this is a good idea? Okay, those are what's called your leap of faith assumptions. And then what could you do to validate that that is true? And what is the quickest, fastest way to do that, where you're going to get the most amount of data and the most amount of information? It usually has to do with something that is not very fun. It requires getting out of the office and speaking to who you think your customer are.
Hey, Derek, there's one question in there about, there was one question about the AI and how do you decide upon a sustainable idea using AI and ML technology? Listen, look at, and I've said this many times, but look at the world around us, how many challenges we have in terms of data. So there's now 49 zettabytes of data on the planet. That would go to the back and forth to the moon if you stack CDs or DVDs 35 times. So we're inundated. We're in a state of infobesity. So each one of you out there, think about it. Doesn't matter if it's farming 4.0, supply chain, manufacturing 4.0, health tech. We're dealing with massive amounts of data, and it's grown at 68% per year. So literally, coming up with an idea, it's about sustainable idea. Find an angle. A lot of these technologies, AI and machine learning, are transportable, which means you can take them from one particular vertical market to another one. Look at it with remote workforce management. Look at Zoom that we're on 6 years ago. As I said, when we first started, I first met the founder of Zoom and their VC firm. I mean, it was just a dream. Look at where there's challenges. There are going to be a lot more people on the planet. It's going to go from 8 billion to 13 billion. We need to figure out how to be able to optimize in farming, hydroponics, how to be able to use the Internet of Things to be able to get that data, how to have some insight into our supply chain, what was screwed up and continues to be screwed up because of this pandemic. So it's literally figure out, I vote was me, I would go to your friends at IIT, computer science students, engineers from places like IIT, look at some folks that are using things like knowledge graphs, variational autoencoders, ladder networks, and then look at applying it. Look at what are the top 3 markets that are having a pain today? Well, it's literally across the board, but find the top 3 and then start to build an idea around a technology around that and test it. As Derek said, our good friend Bob Dorff talks about customer development. Go out and see if people really want to buy it. How do you do that? You go out, you have mock-up slides, go out to 50 people and talk to them, or 50 companies, and talk about your product or service and see what they have to say. Would they be willing to take money out of their pocket to buy it? I mean, that's it. And it's an iterative process. It never stops as you're building your company. You got to iterate when you're doing customer development. You'll know, as my friend Bob Dorf says, when they're willing to grab it out of your hands to use it, to purchase it, and take money out of their pocket, then you've hit it.
My question is it tougher to go for a non-tech startup than a tech one? No, I don't think it's harder. I think, again, it's more about you as an individual and what you're passionate about. How to scale project rates of a mobile and website development from 10,000 to 3050. We are stuck with those costs while closing deals. Yeah, I mean, honestly, before I finish reading this question, we have the fear of to give higher prices. What if we give higher prices and the deals will not close? This is why, and again, hindsight means nothing now, but always start your companies at the top. Be the most expensive, be twice as the most expensive. I would say maybe consider a rebrand or a second company that has the higher prices. That's a good way to split the difference. So you could kind of keep those smaller ones, which are your cash cow, to use an MBA term now. And then you could do a new one that is a higher level of website development. Usually to sell things at a high cost, there's a marginally smaller improvement that you have to make. And so my experience in the mobile and website development, higher costs usually doesn't mean better talent. It means better customer service and account reps and things like that. So I would think about a more concierge channel, whether it's a rebrand or more realistically a second brand, and you could grow it that way. Let's see, how do you decide? Okay, that question's there. How to start a user growth database for a dating app from little to nothing. I'm not sure if it's a database or a customer base. I'm assuming it's a customer base. And so two-sided marketplaces are always hard, and dating's one of them. And I think you have to think about which side is going to grow the other. And Uber famously only marketed themselves to drivers when they first launched in the US. And so, because they knew if they had more drivers, it makes it a better product for the passengers. And also the other thing it does is it really gives the drivers a business, and so they would promote it. With dating, it's a little bit different, but I would say that without knowing the exact niche of what your dating is, whatever differentiates your dating app from others, that's the where you want to focus on building, and build that. So in the US, we have something called Bumble, and Bumble is an example where the woman is only allowed to select the guy. And so for that app, you would probably want to have men that those women would want to select, and really kind of drive it. Feel free to ask a follow-up question, because it's really hard without knowing the exact kind of dating app. We are clear of our idea. How do we get into the action part? We are in the stage of collecting data and studying the research. How should we design the working process? I think very good question. I would be a little concerned about something with a lot of respect called analysis paralysis. There's no easy way to jump off the cliff and get started. I think you just need to really start. Again, focusing on those leap of faith assumptions, testing, but you got to just launch. And it's one of the hardest things to do. You do have to plant the flag and change the narrative in your brain that you are a company. that we're not working on a company or we have a company, and changing that discussion is a leap, but I think it's an important leap that you need to just do. And just know that if you're focused on the problem, not necessarily your solution, you can always pivot what you build. And you'll just work hard until you find the right thing that the market wants to solve it. How should we start a community from scratch? Can you tell us about marketing it? So I think number one is you have to decide, are you a writer or are you a speaker? I guess the third option would be, Instagram, and you could do stuff with pictures, but typically you need to be one or the other, and you really want to hone those skills, and you want to hone your bio and your credibility as much as you can. And then you just really need to start doing one or the other. The more content you push out, the less good the content has to be. I mean, just think about it. If you put up a tweet once a week to get a following, that one tweet would have to be really good versus if you put up a tweet an hour. So I think you need to think about, are you a writer? Are you a speaker? You need to start doing one. I would focus on one platform, and I would focus on what is going to be shareable. And start putting out content that people can share. If you think about it, that's how we're actually interacting these days. That they could share. And the second thing, that actually provides value. Don't just put something out to put it out that's informative. What is the value that you are providing by doing this? And the other thing you have to do is do things that won't scale. Yesterday, we gave a speech to 8 people. Today, we gave a speech to 24. But at the end of my talk, I tried to make it very clear that I'm available to help you at any time. That's an unscalable activity, but it shows authenticity. And I think you have to be real. I think you have to put out content that shows that you wrote it as a human being, not send out like a MailChimp or a HubSpot newsletter. Happy to talk more about that. I would just say email me. Do you think a startup based on blockchain full stack developer will have a better future? We're definitely believe in blockchain. I also believe that if you're going to build something, try to make it so it's agnostic to blockchain, because in the future, you don't know the one that you'll obviously start with one, but make it elastic where it could work with others, because I think that future proofs you. Again, how to explore a venture. Let me just go back down. Thanks, Gary, Derek. As I told you about building a community, so it gets the idea of my problem or advertise. I'm a big believer in community first, then advertising. We're getting projects without too much marketing or services. That's great. Congratulations. Whatever promotion content we did was through LinkedIn. That's great. No. Keep doing it, Shika. And what I would say is focus on learning as much as you can about the people that you're working with. What are the data points? And try to learn about your customers as much as you can. Where do they hang out? What are their favorite movies? What kind of music do they listen to? Where do they congregate? Because you might be missing out on some customers in other places, so you could even populate that more. The other thing I would be thinking about is how you could scale your activity on LinkedIn, so it comes off authentic, real, and informative and shareable, but also how it's automated. And maybe you're already there, but if you're getting all this easily, then automate as much as you can, and scale as much as you can. What I did with my marketing firm, there was this app called Shaper. It's kind of like Tinder for entrepreneurs. And we built a sales channel where I had people working 24 hours a day in Indonesia, 2 teams of 12, 6 on each team. And they would swipe right to companies and entrepreneurs on Shaper and would message them. And that's how we got like 90% of our sales. And that's ultimately what helped us sell the company, because we built that sales channel. So we're getting projects without too much and that's the same question. I don't know if I missed anything. I think I pretty much got them all. But as I said, my contact information is inside the link tree. I'll put my email one more time so you guys have it. By all means, feel free to email me and ask any questions that you have, and I'm happy to always help. So thank you guys, and have a great day, and don't ever stop learning, because I sure don't. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much,
Bye,
Derek,
thank you.
for the
Yeah.
insightful session. Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Thank you. Bye-bye, Derek. Take care. Bye, Gary.